I would also tell Putin that starting tomorrow, we're going to supply an unlimited amount of offensive weapons to the Ukrainians to use at their discretion to attack Russian military targets.
First of all, that effusive welcome from Trump for a man who wanted you arrested and jailed, possibly worse. And then you had the B-2 stealth bomber flying over in salute. Now, did that stick in your craw, or did you think, well, that's what it takes, that's Trump, and at least he's got Putin in America at the table?
Well, if Donald Trump is able to convince Putin to stop the war, then, of course, we can only take our hat off to Donald Trump and his unconventional ways. Sadly, from my perspective, I don't think this has anything to do with whether Donald Trump is a genius or a fool. Vladimir Putin is doing this war not because he needs more territory or he wants Ukraine out of NATO. He's conducting this war because he needs a war to stay in power. This is sort of a wag the dog war. This is a war where he wants to deflect the anger that would be coming towards him towards a foreign enemy. And there's nothing that Donald Trump or any other world leader could do to guarantee him that he would be able to stay in power. And so it's kind of, in my opinion, almost a non-starter that there's going to be any kind of lasting peace that's going to come from this initiative.
You tweeted a couple of days ago that this was the president's sixth ultimatum to Vladimir Putin. Now, if, as you imply, that makes his threats worthless, what do you fear is happening in that Air Force base?
Well, what I suspect is happening is that Putin has two objectives. One is he wants to carry on this war. He needs to carry on this war, and he intends to carry on this war. That's his first objective. He doesn't want to stop his war. He thinks he's doing well. He has a great capacity to stomach pain and losses that the West doesn't have, and he'll carry on doing that if he can. But his second objective is he's got this, I would say, friend in the White House, Donald Trump, somebody who has expressed admiration for him and who's willing to give him a pass. And so he needs to do something to help Donald Trump save face. And so I think he's going to try to twist this whole thing around into a much bigger, broader discussion and negotiation about nuclear war and space and Arctic and all sorts of other things. And oh yeah, and by the way, there's also that niggling issue about Ukraine that we have to sort out at some point in the future. And I think he's going to try to change the terms of the negotiation, set up task forces and other things to meet and discuss, and use that as an opportunity to then kick the ball into the long grass.
Well, Trump has said that if things are going badly, he will know and he will leave within 10 minutes. And he's got a Secretary of State who was a Russia hawk, Marco Rubio, alongside him. He's got Steve Witkoff, his envoy. He's not alone. If you were in that meeting, what would you be telling him would be the right path?
I would tell him the right path would be to tell Putin that if he doesn't agree a ceasefire right now, today, here in this room, then tomorrow there will be crippling sanctions on his oil industry so that he can no longer sell his oil, to tell the Chinese, the Indians, the Turks that if they buy the oil, they'll be subject to sanctions, to sanction Lukoil, Gazprom, Surgutneftegas, some of the big Russian oil companies. And I would also tell Putin that starting tomorrow, we're going to supply an unlimited amount of offensive weapons to the Ukrainians to use at their discretion to attack Russian military targets.
At various points over the last 3 years, a number of commentators and analysts, including you perhaps, have predicted that Russia was in serious trouble, that Putin was surrounded by people who doubted him, that this could not go on forever. But we hear Russia analysts even today claiming that their economy is in rude health, doing even better than the EU economies. Why are they wrong?
Well, first of all, the Russians can go on forever in the same way as the North Koreans have gone on forever. Putin doesn't care if every person in his country starves as long as he's okay and he's ready to allocate resources militarily. The economy is absolutely not in rude health. I don't know where that comes from. They've got terrible problems. They've lost 1 million able-bodied men in war. Another 1 million have left. They're having such labor shortages. They're having to bring in North Korean laborers. They're having soldier shortages. They're having to bring in North Korean soldiers. They're having weapons shortages. They're having to buy North Korean and Iranian weapons. Their $300 billion of their money is frozen in the West. That's probably going to be confiscated. I mean, there's nothing rude health about their economic situation at all. But as I said, Putin is ready to stomach whatever comes his way because he's a dictator, and he doesn't need the public opinion to come his. He doesn't have to have Russian people enthusiastically supporting him. He just have to have Russian people either distracted or scared of him, so that they don't try to kick him out of power. And so he's ready to carry on this war for a very long time. And there's a long history of this type of stuff. If you remember, in the Second World War, Russia lost, millions and millions of people because they just don't have the capacity to feel pain over losses in the same way as we do in the West.
When it comes to expectations from this historic summit, the Trump team, indeed the president himself, tried to manage them, certainly has tried to in the last day or two, saying it's just going to be a feel-it meeting, not going to negotiate above the head of the Ukrainians. What would be the minimum you would expect from this gathering that you would hope for?
Well, I'm kind of disappointed this gathering is even happening today. I think that a gathering of this sort should happen at Putin's initiative, not Trump's initiative, when there's been so much military and economic pressure put on Putin that he has no choice but to negotiate. I don't think that Putin is in a place where he really has to negotiate right now. And so I think that the best that can happen is that Trump says to Putin, you meet with Zelensky tomorrow and you hash out a deal. Otherwise, there's going to be hell to pay. And that Putin and Zelensky meet, and that Trump is serious about his hell to pay. That would be the best case scenario. I doubt anything close to that is going to happen as a result of these meetings today.